Have you ever wondered what are the capabilities of Arab military powers and how much they allocate every year towards their defense bodies, the number of aircraft, fighters and frontline personnel, and most importantly, why have they been so ineffective in the Arab-Israeli conflict? Here's the top 10. Starting with Iraq in the 10th place. Before the American invasion of Iraq in 2003, Iraq was thought to have the strongest Arab army. Although the international sanctions had kept the country from modernizing its weapons and equipment, today Iraq ranks 68th in the world. In the 9th position comes Jordan, a country with an active frontline personnel reaching 110,700 soldiers. Although the considerable strength of the Jordanian army and the geographical location, Jordan has become very reluctant in directly entering regional conflict. However, Jordan's infrastructure has been used by the US. And with a modest 500 million defense budget, Tunisia comes in the 8th position. Tunisia's army is the least funded in the top 10. The same can be said about the active frontline personnel, with only 40,500 from a total population of over 10 million. With the current expenditure, Tunisia's army will remain limited. The 7th position comes Morocco. With an active personnel of almost 200,000, Morocco deploys most of its special forces in the Sahara, around Africa and in the Gulf region. Morocco's military is a significant source of income for the country. And in the 6th position comes Yemen. Despite the financial crisis and external debts reaching over $7 billion, the country's defense budget amounts to $1,440 million. Active personnel, however, is low, with only 66,700 for a total population of over 25 million. And with the defense budget reaching a hefty 14 billion, the UAE is the 5th strongest Arab army. The country, however, has zero reserve personnel and only 65,000 active frontline soldiers. The UAE military budget reflects its objective to maintain strong armed forces in the Arab world. Algeria is the 4th strongest Arab army. Algeria has the strongest naval power in the Arab world, owning the largest numbers of submarines. Algeria's defense budget is over 10 billion, with a reserve of 400,000 of personnel, making the country a super military power in Africa. And in the 3rd place is Syria. The country's military has been challenged by ISIS and other armed groups for the past 3 years, yet the Syrian army remains united and maintains the 26th strongest army position in the world. In the 2nd place is Saudi Arabia, the country with most defense spending reaching a hefty $56 billion. The Saudi army maintains active troops in the borders with Yemen and recently deployed special troops in Bahrain in a show of force to deter the Shiite opposition. The historic Egyptian army remains the strongest Arab army with the largest active personnel and reserve. Egypt owns 4 submarines, 1,100 aircraft and 4,767 tanks. Although the economic crisis following the revolution, the army remains a very solid establishment and ranks 13th in the world. As seen, Arab countries have considerable military powers with budgets ranging from $1 billion to $56 billion. They spend in total $100,837 million, which is almost 7 times the military budget of Israel. In terms of active frontline personnel, the total amounts to 2,142,200 soldiers, which is almost 5 times the total of Israeli active frontline and reserve personnel combined. Israel only surpasses the Arab states in the naval power, with a fleet of 14 submarines. Why have then the Arab states been so ineffective in the Arab-Israeli conflict and unable to intervene every time Israel embarks on an offensive in Palestine, Syria or Lebanon? With an active army size surpassing that of Israel at least 5 times, Arab armies could at least use this power to deter Israel. But it is the lack of political will, not military power, that makes the Arab armies so ineffective in the Arab-Israeli conflict. And while Egypt has the strongest army in the Arab world, Egypt signed a peace agreement with Israel in 1979. The same can be said about Jordan. And despite the Gulf rich in oil resources, the US strong military presence in Saudi, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait and the Emirates and so forth undermines any Arab military intervention from the Gulf region. The absence of an effective military in the Arab world has enabled the birth of a popular resistance to take the role of the state-organized military and enter in indirect and direct conflict with Israel. With much less resources, the resistance has challenged Israel and defeated the notion that Israel is a military superpower in the Middle East.